Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council Workshop meeting for Monday, March 9th, 2026. The council thanks you for being a part of your city government. At workshop meetings, the council discusses issues, but no formal action is taken. Agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. This meeting is also being televised live on PSC-TV channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and/or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. Madam Clerk, if you'd take the roll, please.
Councilmember Campos.
Here.
Cotta.
Here.
Figueroa.
Present.
Hernandez.
Present.
Perales.
Here.
Milne.
Present.
Grimm.
Here.
We have 7 present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving right along. Thank you, everybody. Number 4, verbal reports from council members. Mr. Cotta.
Went to the chamber luncheon today and listened to the Realtors Association give a marketing update. And so it was, it's a little depressing seeing the entry-level housings just kind of become extinct. They kind of gave a graph showing houses that were available from $350,000 and down, and they disappear in 2022. And so, that's the push for townhouses and, cottages on additions to property and things like that, which is kind of a bummer, but at least it's something to get people into homes. But it was an interesting update.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I also had a small presentation, but it was just a meeting with the Tri-City Association of Realtors. Just talked about upcoming planning and housing policy issues affecting Pasco. And we actually talked a little bit about the least restrictive housing, which I'm happy to announce that looks like that LRA house is not going to be going up in Kennewick. So that was quite the relief this past weekend. Also happy to announce that it looks like the old Mexa restaurant location is going to be officially leased to Jam Dug Eats Jamaican Cuisine. They were out of the public market and they signed a lease this past weekend, and we'll be starting there very, very soon. Also had a meeting with the Line of Business Association and some potential investors on Friday night. We toured a couple of properties in downtown, a couple of vacant ones, and they're looking to perhaps put an offer on at least one of them. So that was kind of exciting. Also attended the Cinco de Mayo planning meeting on Friday. Believe it or not, it's only about less than 2 months away, and staff is doing a great job, and we got contracts signed for all the bands and entertainment. We got a whole bunch of kids from the Pasco School District are going to be performing. It's going to be a lively event here in a couple months. So that was my report.
Sounds really good. Thank you. Councilman Figueroa.
Some of the highlights from the past week was attending 2 great department sessions along some of you all. The first one was the Public Works, and so that was just a phenomenal kind of overall of what the entire department does. And today, before this meeting at 4, having the IT department and listening to the work that they're doing, and I think that I shared at that moment that overall the theme within the department seemed to be financial responsibility, as these departments are maximizing their work with the few numbers that they have. And so that's kind of good to hear about the responsible stewardship that's happening amongst the departments and our city staff, because as we all know, that's going to be a big topic, budget stuff. So it's good to see that it's being seen of all the good work and the financial responsibility that's happening from the top down, because we can't just talk about it, but we have to walk it. And so that's really good to hear. So that's something that I wanted to share.
Thank you. Yes, no, appreciate everybody who's been able to attend. I know we can't make them to them all, but thank you for those that have been able to attend some of them. Yes, and thank you for Director Sarah for opening your home to us here, so to speak, last week and introducing us to your staff and just everything that you guys do. I mean, like I've said before, it's pretty easy. We flush, we take things for granted, but your team really does a lot of good things for the city. And then, of course, yeah, Mr. Rashid opening up his department today too, and going to be sad to see him go. He had many great things to say about the city and the direction we're going, and really appreciate that. And he's just, got to follow his heart and follow his family. And so appreciate when somebody does that, can really respect that. So with that, we are going to move on. We're going to actually have an early executive session tonight. This is a little out of the ordinary for us, but we're going to be gone 10 minutes. This is for a discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, section I, and is 10 minutes good, Mr. Stewart? We will be meeting with Mr. Stewart and anybody else? And the HR director. And so we're going to call this for 10 minutes. So we'll be back at 7:17. All right, we are coming back out of our executive session where no decisions were made. Moving on to item number 6, items for discussion with opportunity for public comment. The public may comment on each topic scheduled for discussion up to 2 minutes per person with a total of 8 minutes per item. If opposing sides wish to speak, then both sides receive an equal amount of time to speak, or up to 4 minutes each side. And we're going to start off with letter A, Water Use Efficiency Program element of the Water System Plan. And this is Director Sarah. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight's presentation is going to be about the water efficiency element within our comprehensive water system plan. And I will preempt this discussion of this presentation with the fact that this is part of a portable system plan. It's a mandatory plan that we update on a regular basis. And all the discussion on water efficiency, which results in measures for water conservation, will still be focused on specifically potable water. And for this presentation, we have Ryan Withers with RHU Engineering. RHU Engineering is the consultant that was selected to do this plan for City of Pasco. It's an update to our existing plan. And with that, I will let Ryan guide you through the presentation. Thank you.
Lift it up.
How's this? Perfect. Okay, again, I'm Ryan Withers with RH2 Engineering, and the purpose of the presentation tonight is to describe your water use efficiency program, why it's required, and some suggested updates to your plan as we move forward for the next 10 years. This will be the first of multiple presentations on this topic this year, so tonight certainly will not be the only opportunity you have to provide any questions, comments, or feedback. But let's jump right in. So the water use efficiency rule was implemented in 2003. It's a statewide rule that applies to all municipalities and larger community water systems in the state of Washington. And its main goal is to reduce water use and to protect and prolong the state's water resources. And again, as Maria indicated, it is specific to the potable water system. The main requirements of the rule are to meter all of your source and service connections, which you do, to maintain less than 10% distribution system leakage, which you do. I have a chart on that here in a moment. To maintain a water use efficiency program and update it regularly. That's why we're here. You need to update it this year. And to evaluate your water use efficiency measures on an ongoing basis to determine, are your measures still effective, or do we need to change course at any time? So the program consists of two main parts: identifying measures or ways that you might be able to save some water, and goals to strive for to reduce your water use. Before we talk about goals and some of these ideas, I think it might be helpful for me to take a minute, provide a little bit of background information about your water supply historically, your water trends, and also talk about why it is important beyond just these rules and requirements to conserve water. So let's talk about why we should conserve first. Couple main points. Water rights are very limited, especially out of the Columbia River, which is where all of your potable water system supply comes from. And the rights that are available in the Columbia River are very, very expensive. Another reason to conserve water is very directly related to your treatment plant capacities. We're very aware that you are in the process of planning and designing upgrades to both of your treatment plants. And the intention would be that after these improvements are completed in the next number of years, that you don't have to expand either of your plants anytime in the near or even distant future. Really, every drop of water you can save between now and decades from now increases your ability of your plants to remain sufficient for you. Adding treatment capacity is very, very expensive, and the longer you can prolong the life of your plants and their expanded capacities, the better for you. And then more specific to the customer side, the less water any customer uses, the lower their water bill is. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I mentioned a few charts. I'll go through these in hopefully pretty briefly. The chart here shows your water use over the last 11 years, January, just monthly that is, January on the left, December on the right. The big peak in the middle is your summertime water use. In the summer, your potable water system alone uses about 800 million gallons of water each month. Comparing that to your winter months, which is mostly indoor use, you're around 200 million gallons per month. So you have a major peak in the summer. You're not alone. Richland, Kennewick, other systems in central and eastern Washington have similar curves like this. But what this means is your treatment plants, as well as your pipes and pumps and tanks, have to meet that summertime demand. It's not the average demand throughout the whole year. You have to meet that summertime demand. So on those hot July and August days, there's enough water at every customer's meter. So this is your trend over the last decade plus. And then on the annual water use side of things, looking at from 2008 to present day, your system has gone from using about 4.5 billion gallons of potable water per year to about 5.5 billion gallons of water per year. That's B with a billion. Now, that's an increasing trend, but that's expected. You've been growing significantly. You've added more than 20,000 customers to your system in this time period, and that represents about a 30% increase in service population over this time frame, and only represents about a 20% increase in water use over the same time period. So really, the only reason that your present day's supply isn't even higher is because you are using water more efficiently now than you were 10 or 15 years ago. This chart, or this line on the chart in green, shows your average demand per household, per ERU or equivalent residential unit. Back in 2008, it was almost 500 gallons per day. That's on average. That's not that summertime peak. That's on average throughout the whole year. You're at 470 gallons per day back in 2008. Now you're at about 330 gallons per day. So you've had a major decrease. That green line, that downward trend, is really what we want to maintain. We want to keep that momentum going. We don't want to sort of flatline. We certainly don't want to kick back up. We want to keep this momentum going. But it is also important to look backwards. Where would we be today if we weren't seeing these savings? So if our 2008 water use was still happening today and sort of flatlining just under 500 gallons per day, your supply would be up at around 7 billion gallons of water per year. So you're using 1.5 billion gallons of water per year less now than you otherwise would have been if your water use patterns remained where they were in 2008. Some of this decrease over these last 15 plus years is due to a very effective water use efficiency program. Other reasons for the decrease are you're going to have a natural decrease as your housing density increases, which it has been over the years, and as new development, for the most part, has separate irrigation supply available to it that's separate from your potable system. So there are some natural reasons that are causing this decrease, but you are also having an effective water use efficiency program, which is contributing to this downward trend. next slide. So what is your current water use efficiency program? Well, it's in your 2019 water system plan. I won't hit all of these lines here, but specifically your goals. Your goal was to, one of your goals was to maintain 470 gallons per day per ERU. So as recently as 2019, the goal wasn't to go from 470 down to 330 gallons per day. It was just try and maintain. You guys have done so much better. That's great. Again, we want to continue that momentum. And then the last bullet here, one of your goals was to maintain 8% or less distribution system leakage. The state requirement is 10%. Your goal was a little bit more aggressive than that at 8. Let's talk about that here. This chart shows two black dashed horizontal lines. The state requirement at 10% leakage is the upper of the two. The goal of 8% is the lower of the two. Your annual leakage is shown with the solid blue line. So it's bouncing around a little. There's some ebbs and flows. But on a 3-year rolling average basis, you're right at 8%. It's actually 7.9% as of 2024. We didn't have 2025's numbers by the time this was put together. So you're in a good shape there. And even if you're right at your previous goal, you are still 2 full points lower than the state requirement, which keeps you in a really good spot. So as we shift the focus to the next 10 years, I want to talk some measures that we would recommend that you bring forward from your last plan and a few others to consider implementing. So some of those are to continue your water conservation education program. So you're already doing this with your annual consumer confidence reports, as well as the partnership that you have with Franklin County Conservation District and the school programs that are put on. So very simple. Keep doing that. Keep participating in that. Another thing we recommend you continue to do is to show the customer's consumption history on their water bills. It's easy. It's already in place. Keep doing it. Speaking of bills, one new thing we would recommend considering is to proactively notify customers of suspected leaks or just abnormal water use on their property. So if your billing software was able to automatically look back at the previous month or that same month from the previous year and see that this customer, any customer, has a significant increase month over month, comparing February and February or March to February, a separate message gets sent to them. Just, hey, your water usage was higher than we might have expected. If you know why this was, great. No need for action, right? You might have someone whose separate irrigation system was under repair for the month and they were doing a lot of manual watering from the house for that month, or they were refilling a pool. Those are some common reasons that water use will naturally become a little bit higher. But for a customer where maybe they do have a leak or there's something going on their property, reaching out to them so they can have somebody investigate further can allow you to save some water, and it can help your customer service team in the sense that if their bill is high, if the customer bill is high, the leak is on the customer side of the meter, which means it's the customer's responsibility to investigate and fix if there is a problem. So helping customers that may not understand or know what those next steps are, how to troubleshoot that type of a thing in a relatively simple sort of form letter that would get automatically sent is something that we've found useful for other systems. The fourth primary bullet there is another item to continue doing what you're doing. You provide free low-flow plumbing fixtures to your customers. That's shower heads, that's bathroom faucet aerators, toilet leak detection tablets, and tank banks. Keep doing that. That's great. It's a great program to have. And then the last measure that we would recommend is a voluntary lawn watering calendar. We've found, comparing voluntary versus mandatory lawn watering calendars, that voluntary lawn watering calendars are actually similarly effective, especially if you don't have the staff or resources to enforce a mandatory program. Essentially, the people that are going to listen to your website posting or your news bulletin, and turn down their sprinklers, turn them off one day a week or a few days a week, are the same people that are going to do it even if it's mandatory, unless there's enforcement that happens. So some measures that we recommend at least considering but not proceeding with are a mandatory lawn watering calendar. We would not recommend that. Water main leak detection with your current leakage rate, in the 8% range, well below the state's requirement of 10% range. Not sure that's a great use of your money. If you start to see your leakage rate increase, or you start to have water main breaks on A, more frequently, or B, on very specific types of pipe, materials of pipe, or a vintage of pipe, maybe we want to be a little bit targeted with where we're seeking out leaks, but not a big widespread leak detection program. And then we also do not recommend a tiered rate structure. There's income inequality reasons to maybe stay away from there. And just as a baseline, neither Richland or Kennewick have a tiered rate structure program. So these are some measures that are somewhat common and the Department of Health likes to publicize, but we would not recommend them as good fits for your system. So we've talked about measures. The other side of the water use efficiency program are goals. Two primary goals. I like to keep it simple. Reduce your average day demand on a per house or per ERU basis from the 330 gallons per day that you're at down to 300. That's a 10% reduction. Remember the green line from a few slides back? Let's keep that momentum going. That would result, if you are able to achieve that over the next 10 years, this is a 10-year plan, so we're looking at 2036, that would result in 2 million gallons per day of water use savings 1 decade from now. That's a lot of water. And then on the distribution system leakage side of things, we'd recommend sticking with actually the state requirement of 10% or less. There's no penalty or anything if you have a goal and don't meet it. But sticking at 10% or less is definitely a very safe place to be. So that's my pause point for tonight. Again, this is the first of what's going to be multiple presentations and public forums on this topic this year. Happy to receive any feedback you have tonight or at future meetings. Pending any feedback, we will also be holding a separate public forum at some point later this year. Again, presenting back to you at some point, and then ultimately adopting these water use efficiency measures and goals sometime later this year once everybody's had an opportunity to provide feedback. Maybe it's this summer, maybe it's earlier, maybe it's later, don't know. We're targeting summer though. So with that, I'll stop. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Withers, for the presentation. It's a lot of good stuff. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you go back to that considered but not recommended measures? Can you speak more to why you wouldn't recommend mandatory lawn watering?
Mandatory lawn watering is great if you have the enforcement. The staff and the resources to enforce it can be significant though. What we've seen or what we've heard of other clients of ours that have implemented this is you end up with neighbors telling on neighbors, and it ends up with a lot of bickering, on the street or on the block or whatever else, and the neighbors calling, tattling, telling on their neighbor, wondering, getting upset at your staff for why their neighbor has their sprinklers on all day, every day, their lawn's green and lush and all that, and a person that is abiding by the requirement, maybe their lawn is suffering. Maybe it does. Maybe it's fine. It's healthy. It's not going to die, but it doesn't look as nice. We've seen that in multiple situations. So if you have the staff and the resources to enforce whatever type of mandatory schedule you might consider, by all means, it can be effective. But it takes work.
Okay. What about the tiered rate structure? Why not implement something like that?
Sure. The big reason not to is income inequality. So everyone is still billed the way that they are now for how much water they use. A unit of water is a unit of water. It doesn't matter what your income is. or what your water use is. But as somebody if somebody uses more and more water, that's what a tiered rate structure would be. The more water you use, not only do you pay for more units of water, but that rate is even higher. So for people that may be better off, it's easier for them to pay that surcharge and keep a green lawn or a nice garden, and folks that can't afford it are further priced out from that same level of garden or yard.
If I may add to that, we also have different systems available to different portions of the city. So we have areas in Pasco that have access to irrigation systems, whether it's the city's irrigation system or one of the districts serving them. And then there are areas that their only option for watering of their lawns or any landscape they have is by using of potable water. So this could, in a way, put a heavier burden on those areas that do not have access to an alternative system. So a system that takes that into consideration and tiers the rates to discourage the use of additional water would be a double burden on those that are paying more to water their lawns today compared to paying an irrigation water that is less treated, plus the additional cost because they're spending more than the average planned for. So that is kind of like a double burden on those that do not have access to it, which for City of Pasco happens to be the eastern portion of the city, just based on where our irrigation system is and where the canal system existed before, or exists today actually from FCID, which is available mostly on the center and western portions of the city. Thank you.
One last question. I saw that we really didn't have an element of xeriscaping, maybe incentivizing people to not have green lawns and perhaps have, other types of vegetation. Is that not something that would be part of this type of water efficiency plan?
It certainly can be. There's two things you can do. One is simply encourage xeriscaping. Easy to do. You provide examples. Very easy to do. The other would be full-blown incentive-based. And that would be based on what we've seen before would be, if someone takes out X square feet of lawn in their yard and replaces it with native plants, rockery, that type of a thing, they would receive, usually it would be a monetary incentive for doing that. The downside that we've seen for other cities is that monetary incentive for most cities does not outweigh the cost of re-landscaping their yard. And so they end up paying more. They might end up paying, round numbers, let's say $1,000 to re-landscape their yard, but they're only receiving a $200, $500 incentive or rebate from the city. So they still take a net loss there, and even though they would have a lower water bill because of it, they still are in the red. And what we've been seeing is the folks that are inclined to xeriscape anyway are not going to be incentivized by a few $100s one way or the other.
Interesting. Well, I would look at it different ways. I would look at it like if I was an older individual, I wouldn't have to go outside and mow my lawn anymore. So I'm going to be sweating out there, and so that's an incentive. So it could be monetary based, but it could also just be something else. Just less cleanup. Picking up weeds and things like that. I think that should be something. That'd be my feedback. We should have an element like this in this plan. Look at cities like over the city of Spokane. They have a really robust plan. At least look into it, maybe during the feedback sessions, bring it up and see what people say. But in my district, there's a lot of people who have taken out their lawns to a certain point and have a lot of rocks, pretty rocks and things like that. But it's just something to look into, I would say. So that'd be my feedback.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cotta.
Could you pull up the monthly water use slide? And so when we're using kind of a max available during the summer, is there any reason we can't store water during the times of the seasons that we're not using it and then use it when we need it?
You can. The way your system currently stores water is with above grade reservoirs. I think though what you'd be alluding to would be aquifer storage recovery systems where you're actually using the aquifer to store the water. You can absolutely do that. There's been some studies done on that actually for your system. Your neighbor across the river, Kennewick, has an ASR system. So you absolutely can do that. It is certainly not as costly as a brand new treatment plant or a full-blown expansion, but there are still significant costs in doing so. So I don't know how much you want me to talk about that right now, but yes, it is an option.
I'm a farmer, so the issue of water just it just bugs me, right? So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's sort of like, why can't we just store water when we're not using it and then use it when we need it?
Right. I mean, the biggest hurdle to that is the state requires for the water that you would take. So in theory, you would take the water out of the river in the winter, store it in the aquifer until summer, and then pump it back out in the summer when demands are highest.
Yeah.
Among the hurdles, not only are you pumping it twice, once out of the river and then up somewhere into your system, and then it sits in the aquifer, then you have to pump it back out, so there's additional costs there. The other thing is that you have to treat that water both times, the first and second time, to drinking water standards, which is not cheap. You have treatment capacity in the winter months to do that, but you are still having to treat it to that standard. So you cannot simply take the raw water out of the river and put it into the aquifer without any treatment.
So it's a more expensive system.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Figueroa.
On the distribution system leakage slide, just for context purposes, do we know what led to that spike above the DOH requirement in the year 2023?
We don't know specifically. I am theorizing it was due to a slight lag, but due to the billing software change that took place post-pandemic. I don't know the exact year.
I believe that was 2023, end of 2023, 2024.
So thank you. There was a billing software upgrade and transition that took place, which is going to change how some customers are characterized, the dates and the categories of everything. And so I suspect that the volatility that you see there in the 2023 specifically is a artificial blip, and that as we get another few years of data and a few years further removed from that software upgrade, that this will have smoothed itself out.
Thank you, Mr. Campos.
Yeah, can you just help me understand, the WEUE program? I know it's conservation, but is it based off of like what the state says? Your population is this is how much it is, or is it just based off of this is what you used, 5 years ago, and we just want you to do better with that? Because I'm looking at the 2019 goal, 470, right, gallons per day per eat. I mean, we hit it out of the park. We got 330. I feel like that's a celebration, but instead now we're saying do better, 300, and I'm just afraid like in 10 years from now they're going to be like, let's do 200. And so what's truly the efficiency? Is the state saying this is what it is, or is it just basically this is what you guys did and we just want you to conserve?
It's more the latter. You get to decide what works best for you within a set of rules or a rubric. The larger the system, the more measures, the more ways you have to at least attempt to save water are required of you. So you have more measures that you have to plan for, or at least strive for, than, Burbank, for example. But in terms of the goals and how strict and aggressive you need to be, that's up for you to decide. And again, there are no penalties for not achieving your goals. I think the sentiment though is, hey, if you don't have goals, you may be letting some water, however many drops of water that is, some water that could be saved, reasonably saved and cost effectively saved, sort of slip by which is then, again, impacting the state's water resources and adding cost to your customers if it results in additional treatment or otherwise capacity upgrades.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I agree with so much of the sentiment of the fellow council members here and everything. My couple takeaways. There's one, just the numbers are just mind-boggling. Holy smokes! You made sure we heard the B in billions, and yeah, it was not lost on me. And just even the peak of the 1 month, 800 million gallons. That's just nearing a billion in just that 1 month. And I mean, it really is. And it's so easy for us to take it for granted. We have this giant river. I mean, the great river of the West right here that flows right through us, and it's so easy to take water for granted. So I really appreciate your time to dig into this study and just the importance that staff and council has placed on this to try to conserve water, because it's something we shouldn't take for granted. I mean, you don't have to look too far, the Klamath River Basin or Salinas or, heaven forbid, the desert Southwest, to see how precious this resource really is. And just even considering our snowpack this year, it's really light in a lot of areas. And so I think this is a really important topic, and I appreciate the timing of it. So thank you, Mr. Withers. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we're going to open this up to the public here. The public has a chance to speak on this if you would like, up to 2 minutes. So we'll open it up. Anybody like to speak on the water use efficiency program element of our water system plan? Mr. Hastings, thank you.
Thank you. Colin Hastings, Pasco Chamber of Commerce. Just one item of note, and this is going to be a bad pun, so it might be a drop in the bucket, but a couple years ago when we were discussing water rights and transferring the cost of that, and Director Sarah could probably tell me if I'm lying or not, but one of the things that was talked about in that discussion is that Chiawana High School, for their irrigation needs, they actually use potable water for all of that, which is, again, it's pretty substantial, but could maybe help with this. And I don't know if, am I correct in remembering that correctly?
Yes.
And there is irrigation district water right above that. So that's a larger example of something that's maybe egregious, and there may be smaller sort of things. So that may be something for, some of the new council members to maybe do a little study over. Maybe we can conserve more of the potable water because of the expense that goes into that just for irrigation. And that's the only comments I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Appreciate that. Yeah, and if I remember right, Councilmember Perales even brought that up before, didn't you? Yep. Thank you. Step right on up. Love to have you. Name and residence, please.
Kara Kalber, Pasco. I'm the district manager for the Franklin Conservation District. That was kind of nice to see us up there for our water conservation programs that we've been delivering to schools probably since 2011. Director Sarah and I have been working together for a very long time, delivering those water conservation education programs in schools here. Not only to meet the Quad City water right that you have, that has it specifically stated in there needs to be an education component to it, but along with that, the stormwater education that we do those in combination so that grades K through 5 get at least one lesson. So we're hoping as students move through the education system, by the time they're 5th grade, they've heard the message loud and clear to conserve water and at home and the many ways that they can do that, as well as only rain down the drain so that they can protect our river systems. Because you're right, we've got a great big wide river that's available to us, but it's not an unlimited resource. And without teaching our students conservation, it's, we take it for granted way too much. And so, quote Whitney Houston, our children are our future, right? They're the ones that are going to be inheriting what we leave them. So we have to make sure that we teach them well. And then with the Xeriscape program, we have the Heritage Garden program at the Conservation District. We have a waiting list. There's a lot of interest in urbanites converting their lawns into that more sustainable, natural, drought-tolerant, native landscape. So we have a program that helps them do that. And yeah, it costs money to do it, but in the long run, Councilman Perales, I think you're right. I don't want to mow the lawn anymore. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate those.
Katie Copeland, Pasco Realtor. Mr. Prowse hit it on the head there. We've been mentioning xeriscaping for quite some time, and moving forward with all the development going on, I don't necessarily think you need to go backwards and let the people do it if they want to, but with all the future development in Pasco, there's got to be some way that we can work with the developers on doing some more xeriscaping. Thank you.
Thank you. Going there, we have room for one more comment. I know this is kind of an issue where it's a little tough to tell those for and opposed, but we'd be more than willing to take one more comment if anybody has one on this issue. Going once, going twice, seeing no one coming forward for 3 times, we will move on. Thank you again, Mr. Withers. Appreciate everybody that commented on this. Letter B, the comprehensive plan economic development element discussion, and this is you, Ms. Mattson. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tonight is a discussion related to one component of the comprehensive plan. There's about 15 different components of the comprehensive plan, and economic development is one of them. It's an optional component of the plan that cities can put in. It's not required at the state level, but Pasco does have this element already in the 2018 plan, so we are seeking to update this element. And tonight is meant to be very high level with council, and we do intend to proceed with more detailed outreach with our economic development partners. The Pasco Chamber of Commerce is in the audience, I've noticed, and the Port of Pasco, and we do plan to do further outreach with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and then TRIDEC and a few other partners when we get the draft outlined. And we did discuss this, staff discussed this topic with the Planning Commission already, and then with our consultants, and then some internal discussions related to economic development. And what we'd like to do is take the economic development that was produced in 2018 and update it to be more relevant to today's standards, and then build into it goals and policies that we can use for creation of a future implementation plan, budget pending. So if we do have budget for it, we do plan to make a more full-on implementation plan similar to the Broadmoor Master Plan or the Downtown Plan, where you have certain goals and then certain tasks to address throughout the plan. So we will try and put more implementation measures into this plan, since we do have consultants working on it with grants that were provided at the state level. So we'll do our best to do that. And our goal is to get a more usable economic development plan so that this can be a more key focus for the city as we look at Pasco and the growth that's coming in. So hopefully it will be more useful. Right now, the plan is written in a way where it did, I think, cover the basics of the city plan, but we'd like to take it a step further and make it more unique to Pasco. And that goes for the whole comprehensive plan. We want to make each element very unique to Pasco and not necessarily just meeting the state mandates in most cases. So I have a few slides here and just going to go through economic development themes, and just feel free at the end to let me know if we've missed anything or if you'd like us to look at anything closer, if you have outreach ideas for us to consider. I do have a meeting with our consultants in the next 2 weeks to discuss the current draft, and then we'll be discussing next steps. And this will not be the last time the city council sees this topic. You'll see it folded in with the comprehensive plan. At the end of the year, you'll be getting 2 volumes presented to you of the comprehensive plan, and it's several hundred pages, so we'll divide it up and you'll get each of these topics again. So our goal is to have some touch points with the group by the end of the year. So the first topic is economic diversification and higher wage jobs, and this is a topic for Pasco that we'd like to support more higher wage employment opportunities. And this is a key theme that has been discussed. So the Richland community has a lot of Hanford employees with PhDs that specialize in nuclear physics and things that I have no idea what they mean. But, you know, we'd like to offer something similar in Pasco where we can get a more diverse job source in the area. We do have a good diversity of jobs right now, especially in our robust industrial area. But to to bring in higher paying jobs means that they'll likely spend their money in this community. And so instead of doing another nuclear plant and copying exactly what Richland has, the idea is to diversify and bring in potentially aerospace manufacturing or other specialized uses that are synergetic to the west side, where we can maybe, bring some of those uses over here into this area. And the Port of Pasco is working on a project, the Aerospace Innovation and Manufacturing Center at the Pasco Airport. And there was a SEPA released last year with details about it. And so that's the idea behind that, to bring a different use that isn't necessarily competing with existing uses in the area, but brings like more technology and higher paid jobs into the area. So that's one theme that was covered. There's other sectors that could support growth in this area in addition to aerospace, which would be healthcare and professional services and advanced manufacturing. Mainly food production manufacturing comes to mind because it's so synergetic with our existing food manufacturing uses out there in our industrial center. And if any of you would like a tour of the industrial center, our building official, Troy Hendren, does a really good job driving you around and showing you the different businesses in town, and has lots of stories related to it. So if any of you would like to do a personalized tour, let me know and we can set something up for you. Okay, moving on to the next theme, retail development and commercial land supply. So Pasco is currently not keeping up with the pace of population growth as it compares to our retail and commercial uses. And this will be a topic that we bring to the City Council later this year when we bring a myriad of comprehensive plan amendment requests. And since I've arrived, I have had multiple property owners reach out to the city and asking, can we rezone our commercial property to residential? And we haven't really had that conversation yet as a group. So if you have some input on the matter, happy to hear it at the end of the presentation. My opinion is that once you lose commercial, it's very hard to get it back. Right now, residential is hot and building houses is making money. It pencils. If I own a property and wanted to make money off of it, I would likely want it to be zoned residential so I could build a product in the community that was easier to sell. Commercial is harder to build. The brick and mortar is expensive, and it's hard to attract certain commercial businesses that only come to town, if the stars align, basically, for these businesses to come into town. So Pasco is a bit behind on its commercial and retail uses as compared to other cities. So the goal is to create not only more commercial and retail experience in Pasco, but a unique experience that hopefully brings people from Richland into Pasco to shop. So we don't have folks in Richland driving to Pasco right now to shop at, a grocery store like Safeway, for instance. They're not coming into town to do that, likely, unless they have some other reason to be in Pasco. So we'd like to create a good experience, maybe a sporting store or some regional destination that brings people out of Kennewick and Richland into Pasco. And when they're in Pasco, maybe they stop at a grocery store and they get groceries on the way home, or stop at a coffee stand. So we want to bring other people into our city. So currently we are losing retail to other cities. Pasco residents are driving to other cities. So I won't, belabor that too much, but that is our idea with the Broadmoor Master Plan, to bring in, a pedestrian level retail commercial experience. And so I wanted to emphasize this topic with the group just because we will be faced with decisions at some point, or maybe, approached by the public. Can we rezone certain parcels that are, in my opinion, well located along arterials from commercial to residential? Just keep that in mind, that once it gets switched from either industrial to residential or commercial to residential, it's likely never going to be back. And then it's very hard to reestablish commercial in areas that are already residential. That's a hard switch to make. It's easier to make on vacant property. So that's just something to keep in mind as we talk about economic development. And the next topic is infrastructure capacity and economic growth. So we just had a great presentation by Ryan before related to water conservation, and infrastructure is intimately related to city planning, city growth, land use policy, and economic development. So we can't grow as a community or attract a nice retailer if we don't have enough water rights for the area, or the roads aren't built, or there's no plans for the roads. So infrastructure is tied very closely to everything we do. It's part of the living, breathing city. And so that's something that's identified, which we are required to look at every 10 years for the comprehensive plan. One key consideration that has come up so far in internal conversations is the electricity substation capacity for the area. So that's something that continually comes up, is if we did receive, a large airport manufacturing project, is there enough power to serve it? And if there's not, what do we do to get it? So I know that that's a limiting factor in some cases, and something that we're actively working with our partners for electrical support, and they will be invited to participate in the comprehensive plan process as well. And then healthcare access and regional services. There are quite a few clinics that have popped into Pasco up and around Road 68. So there's definitely a market for clinics, and we have seen a rise in medical facilities throughout Pasco. There is an identified need for potentially a regional hospital on the west side of Pasco, just to provide that service so you're not driving, to the regional hospital in Richland. So healthcare remains a big topic in Pasco, and there are several clinics and opportunities in Pasco that have come up recently in town. And then some other themes, these are more of the fun themes, in my opinion, is tourism, recreation, and downtown revitalization. Specifically, I've heard sports tourism mentioned to me, and maybe more coordination with the Hapo Center, event-based economic activity, improve connections between the recreational facilities, commercial districts, and the Columbia River. And Planning Commission noted, we didn't have this in the notes before, but I thought it was a great idea, focusing more on the river. It's a huge asset in Pasco, and there's some areas of town where it's non-existent, you don't see it, and there's some areas where you're close to it and it's not a built-up feature in town. So really playing up that nice natural feature in Pasco could be seen as an economic development opportunity. And then, of course, revitalizing our wonderful downtown. There has been so much activity in the last few years, breathing life into that, and that's been a partnership between city activities and then the private side too. So we'd like to keep the gas pedal going on that effort and keep revitalizing downtown where we can, budget pending, and then, resources, of course, but we'd also like to keep focus on downtown so that can be a good, thriving experience for people in the community. And then for economic development related to customer service and permitting, we are working on improving the image of Pasco Community Development and Economic Development Department, and hopefully providing the best service in the area over time, and updating our systems and training staff, and just continuing with the customer service message that, how can we get to yes instead of how does this not work for the community. So we want to offer a good service, update our systems. We now accept payments online, which is super exciting. It saves people trips, and I've already noticed there's just been a lot quicker service provided just from that feature alone. And then the permit system will also offer just an easier experience for the customers submitting. And then we want to continue to improve our transparency with customers so that they're not surprised at any point during the process. Our goal is that they come in, they get upfront information, and then throughout the process there isn't a big costly surprise that occurs. Realistically, there are some cases where surprises occur, but we do want to offer the best service and have it known throughout the community that Pasco provides a good service to the developers, where even if we are saying no, hopefully they understand it's a fair answer and a respectful answer, because we just can't say yes in every situation. We need to look out for our residents that live here and balance so many different goals, but we do want to provide good customer service, and that can be seen as a good economic development tool, especially for large retailers coming into town. If we have a bad reputation, they may look at our neighbors instead. So we want to keep the momentum going with customer service improvements, which is top of our list from now on until we can get to a really good place. And then defining Pasco's economic identity and vision. Pasco has, grown over the last few years, several years, and Pasco is looked at traditionally as a small farming community and has, grown doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size over the last year. So we are a big city, but we still function like a small city in that small community feel, which I think is really cool. But just looking more into Pasco's identity, what are we, what do we want to become, especially with the new northern area of town is something important to identify with the city. And the final slide is just summarizing that this is all part of the comprehensive plan update this year, and this is just one of the check-in points we'll have with council. And I am mirroring presentations to planning commission and the city council at the same time. I have noticed that since I've been doing this, planning commission does spend a lot more time on these topics, which is great. I think that's, what they're there for, and they do a really good job getting into the weeds so that you don't have to. And by the time the product comes to you, I've noticed it's been a good product so far with those recent, rezones and comp plan amendments. So planning commission is diving a lot deeper than the council on these topics, but I am going between both groups as the liaison and getting feedback, and then I'll report back to planning commission what I hear from council and going back and forth. So with that, lots of fun topics. Happy to hear any feedback. What did we miss? What would you like us to look into closer related to economic development in Pasco?
Councilmember Campos.
Thank you for the presentation. I think we all want our economic development to continue to grow, and I heard a lot of great ideas that was given with it. But I do want to focus on the workforce development. I really believe that, yes, we want, big commercial businesses to come in, but I think what makes our city fantastic and amazing is the people that live here. And so building on them. So I'm thinking things like providing career and technical education, apprentices programs, with unions that are around, partnership with the school district and CBC, making sure that we're providing those opportunities for our people to become skilled employees and also have strong business owners. Also having a bilingual workforce, maybe training center. All of those would just allow our community to grow in their own skills. And I think that when you have a community that has skilled labor people or just individuals, I think that does attract businesses to it, knowing that it is a city that has a diversification of many skilled people that live here. And so I would also say to focus also on that, the people, and providing programs to build on them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good comments. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to ask for a clarification. When you earlier, Director Mattson, you were talking about commercial businesses coming here, but it seems like you said the stars need to align or something to that effect. Like, what do you mean by that?
I meant more on like the portfolio of the retailer, and I'm not an expert in this topic, but there are some commercial uses. Like we get asked a lot in the department, why can't you get a Costco here or, a Cabela's, and why can't you call up North 40 and just bring them to town and roll out the red carpet? We can do that, but the stars aligning comment means, a property has to be available for purchase in the right area, in the right zone. And then those businesses have certain markers that they need to meet. And in some grocery stores I've talked to before at other cities, if they only have one access or two access, they just walk away and they go somewhere else. They have very specific site constraints, and then they have specific market. There's some stores that will only locate if you have a certain amount of degrees in the area, or they count the number of houses within a radius, or they're spaced between another Cabela's, a different. So that's what I mean by stars align. It's not as easy as, a friendly city and friendly service. We can do that. It's just they look at so many different things before they even will consider coming here, and it's based on the use. That's what I meant by that. There's a lot of things out of our control.
No, that's a good
based
clarification.
on their portfolio. Yep.
I guess my pushback would be, I guess we should be doing that. We should be gathering that data. Like when you guys go to the ICSC, we should have that so we can entice these big commercial, retail stores to come here. How many, hey, we have the Broadmoor, we have these many houses, we have this many degrees, we have this or that, we're going to put in an overpass, things like that. I mean, we need to sell, you're dividing Pasco's economic identity and vision. We need to provide a vision to them. right? To attract them. I think it's not going to be easy, but that's probably why we need maybe someone. I've been banging on it for a while about having a economic development plan. This is in our comprehensive plan, but we need someone kind of pushing it. So I'm not saying it's not possible. That's why I was just that was an interesting take about the stars aligning. I think we need to be looking for people to come here. You said Costco. We don't want to talk about Costco, but there can be another type of Costco, right? We can get like a Trader Joe's, something to be in that area. But I did like the 30,000 foot view overview. I would say the council does need to get in the weeds. We should be looking for strategies, looking at other cities. I would just say, for one, about in relation to creating higher wage jobs, I think we should look for a minimum. What do we mean by that? Is that $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year, $100K a year? Like, what jobs are we talking about here? And so I think we should look to bring in industry that provides, more than kind of what a common household in Pasco currently is looking at. I like the comments about fixing, I would say, retail leakage. People come here, they're not really coming for certain reasons, but again, it goes back to our vision and our cultural and our experience. We need to bring people here. I think we're doing great on investing in critical infrastructure. I think we're making the investments, we're making changes. So I wouldn't say we're behind on that at all. I would say we're getting there with the downtown Pasco. We're doing lots of stuff with the downtown Pasco master plan. Talking to those businesses down there. So I would say we're fair on that. Promoting tourism, recreation. I think that's one thing, and I think that's why also, I think we should be pushing on our partners about the waterfront. We had Osprey Point. I think it's still there. I hope it's still there. I would tell the port, if they're listening and watching, we want Osprey Point. We want to utilize the waterfront. Sports and tourism, you are correct. I would love to see the Hapo Center become a sports complex. That area is a sports complex. We have softball fields. We have an RV park. We have the stuff there, and so I think that would bring people to Pasco. So I think really we should really push hard for recreation. And also, there's a ton of waterfront there that we can definitely start looking at. I think when it comes to targeted economic tools, we've been talking about a TUA, target urban area, for a long time. I know we talked about it when I first got on council. It's going to be almost 2 years where we've kind of seen no movement on that. I think that could be a way to bring bigger industry in. You talked about, one infrastructure thing. I know that's something that we talked about when I first got on council, about the electrical grid. I think we need to look into that. That's something we need to start shoring up, because I would like to see data centers here in Pasco. Why not? Burbank's getting one, Umatilla, Hermiston, all these other places get data centers. Now Richland's probably going to get one. West Richland, we need to be in that game too, because that is jobs, especially when it comes to construction. I work in construction, and it's not just for me, but it's just for the whole area. We see a lot of, we see an uptick in economic development with that construction. So, we should be looking out, we should be talking to either Sadie centers or Amazon to bring those centers in. But I think at the end of the day, I think we just need to have clear metrics. So whatever the plan is going to be, I would like to see how how are we measuring that? I'll say, with like 30 to 40,000 people coming here, how many jobs are we looking to create? Let's put a number on it. We want to create 15,000 jobs in 10 years. I think that's kind of low, but why don't we go for it and see how we do? So those are my initial comments, and it looks like we still got a couple more months, but I think overall the presentation was good. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Not seeing anybody but Councilmember Figueroa.
Just to kind of extend more of the comments, for me, it's definitely more emphasis on the eastern part and central part of Pasco. That's one of the districts. That's the district I represent. And during my lifetime, I've heard downtown more of a buzzword than anything else. And I think the last couple of years, for sure, there's been some few improvements. But as we continue to talk to business owners and just the residents that live in that area, I think it's important that if we want to revitalize downtown, that we have to have an actual plan. I've seen vacant buildings for about 25 years and nothing really has been done about it. So I don't know if we can kind of include that in the economic development plan, have some sort of phases where we have a vacancy registry perhaps, where building owners have to register the building, pay a fee, and by X amount of years, if they're not using it, there's some other incentives or penalties for that. Just to incentivize individuals to begin to use those empty buildings. because we can talk about, revitalization all we want, have a plan, make it look nice and cute, pictures and everything else. But if we don't have a plan in actually set in stone, then it's not going to really come to fruition. So those are some of the conversations that I've heard with business owners and even people and myself, my experience. I'd love to go downtown, but seeing a lot of these buildings that have been there doing nothing, it doesn't really have a good look for it, and it doesn't really help the economic activity down there. I'd be more than willing to kind of sit down with a lot of stakeholders and create something that can be set in stone and continue to move that forward. I know that some cities do vacant property taxes to kind of that's kind of a penalty for not using their buildings. And I've talked with other council members from other cities that kind of implement that, so maybe we can look into that. But those would be my comments. And I mean, I'm big on the sports and recreation. I'd love to see that. I think that the city of Pasco being a host city for the World Cup and all that fan zone, we have a lot of things that we can tap into, but we definitely have to have a vision, as Councilmember Perales says, because without a vision, then we're just running everywhere. So those would be my comments.
Thank you. Appreciate those. Yeah, and I guess to piggyback onto those too, I mean, I think our bones are really good here in Pasco when it comes down to, I mean, of the Quad Cities, we are the one with the airport. We are the one with the railway. And with that, I appreciate Mr. McFadden. I see in the audience everything you're doing there to try to develop the port and perhaps develop us an aerospace industry, as Ms. Mattson mentioned earlier. And so those are the kinds of things that, as much as we can partner there, I think are the great opportunities to bring in those jobs and the workplace development and those kind of things you were talking about, Mr. Campos. So yeah, that is going really well. And then Ms. Mattson, you talk about the electricity, and I feel kind of the dagger, because I think about the state, and their continued push to, whether it be to pull out the Snake River dams, or their push for EVs, and pushing all of this infrastructure onto a grid that really can't handle it at this point, to where here, it might be a potential struggle for us to bring in a aerospace partner or something like that. But yet we have all these extra things being pushed. So that's really kind of tough. But no, I agree that we have a real neat opportunity out in Broadmoor too. I mean, to make it really the premier retail shopping destination of the Tri-Cities, not only to keep Pasco people in Pasco, but to actually draw from the other cities. And the aquatic center is going to be opening this year, and I know the hands-on Children's Museum is, I think, still looking for a site. And boy, we have a real special opportunity to do something really cool out there that I think would be a blessing to not only those in Pasco, but everybody in the community. And I guess just one of the things you asked for in your alternative options here is, and I guess you even mentioned that, Ms. Mattson, was to do something to satisfy the minimum state requirements. And sometimes I definitely think there's a time for that, but I really like your idea of developing a Pasco-specific element supported by an implementation strategy. I know that you have won over a lot of developers since you've been here, and I've really appreciated so much of what you've accomplished so far with the SEPA and the process changes. And then just even customer service is one of the things that I really ran on, hoping to see our public-facing people just really, just trying to serve people. Like you said, how can we get to yes? And so I really, every time you talk those ways, it hits me right in the heart, because that's, I think, so important. I think that's what the people want. I think that's what we are all here for, is to serve the people. So I really appreciate you taking that and running it, and just, you've just really been a breath of fresh air since you've been here and what you've been able to accomplish. So thank you. Not seeing any other lights, we will open this to the public. This is a really big topic. Would anybody in the public like to address the comprehensive plan economic development discussion we're having here? A lot to talk about. It's your city. Mr. McFadden, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Stephen McFadden. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Port of Pasco. My role is to be responsible for the entire economic development team at the port. About 7 of us that are working every day to continue to maintain the businesses that we have. Almost 200 companies located on Port of Pasco facilities. Many of those are small businesses. We're noticed and in the press more over projects like Daragold, Certainly when you get $1 billion private investment that results in 200 manufacturing jobs, it makes a big splash. But if you think about the big Pasco Industrial Center, 1.5 million square feet of warehouse complex, the vast majority of those companies are much smaller and they're doing great work. They're actually directly involved with import, export industry operations and providing support and logistics and services through the whole region. Aerospace is just one potential new industrial park that we're looking at. That's been fully studied by the port over the last 3.5 years and recently applied for some federal funding to do the first phase of engineering and design to open the first 125 acres of that park. It's a long haul project. It's a marathon. Our current goal is to have engineering and design done around 2030. That's about $8 million worth of design, specifically public infrastructure, roads, utilities. And when you talk about power, we know that we need a new substation and 2 miles worth of transmission line dedicated to serve an aerospace manufacturing center at Tri-Cities Airport. We'll also just recently doubled the size of the Ryman Industrial Center from 300 acres to 620 acres. We'll be working over the next few years to get the majority of that ground brought into the city's urban growth area and eventually into the city limits. We're already under non-disclosure agreement with 2 clients who found out that we acquired more ground and they're having conversations with us. But the one thing I would say is, if you haven't ever had a chance to tour the Port of Pasco or talk to the Port of Pasco staff, we would be happy to host a VIP tour for city council and staff. We have a 15-passenger port van, and we can take you on a couple-hour driving tour.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. McFadden. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else in the chamber like to address this issue? Going once, going twice. All right, moving on. Thank you again, Ms. Mattson. This is letter C. It's a Q ordinance amending the zoning classification of certain real property located north of West Agate Street, south of West Pearl Street, west of North 6th Avenue, and east of North 5th Avenue in Pasco, Franklin County, Washington, from C1 retail business to R1 low density residential. And we're right back to you, Ms. Mattson.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And since you did have my presentation, I'll skip on the location and just show you the map here. This is a rezone. Oh, I'm sorry. Did legal want to read the quasi judicial process tonight, or did you want to do that?
I can do it.
I'm sorry. I almost forgot. I did forget, but then I remembered.
No, it's all right. We can get through this pretty quickly. So, good evening, Mayor, Council. Just as Ms. Mattson was saying, when we're dealing with a rezone, this means now that you're taking off your legislative hat and you're putting on your quasi-judicial hat. And so that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. Not tonight. This is just a discussion. But when you discuss this at your next council meeting. As a reminder, a quasi-judicial meeting is a proceeding in which the council defines the legal rights, duties, and privileges of the specific parties in any particular hearing in front of it. And because of that, something known as the appearance of fairness doctrine applies. And what that means is that the hearing or proceeding must be fair in 3 respects: in form, in substance, and appearance. This matter specifically, this rezone had a hearing held by the hearing examiner on December 10th, 2025. Following that hearing, the hearing examiner made findings and provided council with a recommendation. I believe in your council packet, it is a recommendation to pass the rezone. Because the public hearing on this matter was previously held by the hearing examiner, no new evidence may be presented at this time, and only those who participated in the open record hearing in front of the hearing examiner may testify, and arguments must be summary only and offer new evidence. But prior to commencing all deliberations, the council members should consider whether they have potential conflicts, which are as follows: a demonstrated bias for or against any of the parties, any direct or indirect financial interests in the outcome of the proceeding, which would affect the council members personally, whether there has been any prejudgment of the issues prior to the hearing of the facts, whether there's been any ex parte contact, that means somebody emailing you, reaching out to you, calling you with anyone other than staff discussing this matter prior to this hearing. any other conflict, and then any other conflict which a council member believes would prevent them from hearing this matter fairly and impartially. Having heard all that, if there are any council members who has any concerns or disclosures regarding this matter, now would be the time to make them known on the record.
Not seeing any.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Finally, are there any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in the proceedings? If so, they need to step forward and state the nature of the challenge.
Not seeing any.
Thank you again, Mayor, and that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Palm, for that information. Appreciate it. So as we've stated, this is a rezone from C1 to R1, and I'll get to the nature of the rezone in a few slides. We did do an overview of the process of the quasi-judicial process. It just means it goes through a different process through the hearing examiner, and then council makes a decision on the matter during their meeting. And then we have determined that all of the requirements for this rezone have been met through the Pasco Municipal Code. And the hearing was held on December 10th, and council is required to consider the three options there on the screen, and the hearing examiner has recommended approval to rezone the parcel to R1 zoning. And so if you'll recall my previous presentation, I probably scared everyone before bringing this topic, but I'll explain why this one's okay. Converting commercial to residential. So this is a unique situation. This property here that's shown on the screen in light pink is surrounded by yellow, and that yellow designation is a land use designation for residential uses. So this is the overarching 20-year plan designation for the city for this area to be residential. And this property was historically used as a church, and it's been vacant since 2023. And so it's had this designation, and this is not a unique situation in Pasco. We'll cover this later. There's about 20 to 25 comprehensive plan amendments that we'll be bringing to you during the comprehensive plan update cycle, and a lot of them are just fixing the zoning and the land use layers that don't match properly. So this is unique to Pasco. I haven't actually experienced this many changes during an update, but we'll get through it together. We are starting to organize it, and so that's a later topic. This is one of those situations where this property either the land use designation changed to residential and the zoning wasn't updated, or vice versa. So this is a pretty simple one. I know that I said we don't want to lose commercial, we'll never get it back. Here, I don't think it makes sense to leave this commercial. There's commercial across the street, that land use designation. So this is just zooming in and showing on the aerial photo, you can see more residential houses around there. So I think it's very appropriate to just go ahead and rezone it to match the neighborhood so that there's not a commercial use that's sort of sticking out like a sore thumb, right where people are living. So the proposal is to turn it yellow and match the other properties next door. So that's the proposal to you. I believe it's very straightforward, almost considered a cleanup item in my mind. And hopefully that vacant property will be redeveloped into additional housing units soon, and won't be, an area that maybe produces vandalism or other things that vacant properties often cause. So staff has no opposition to this, and we're recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council on this one? Not seeing any, we'll move to the public. Would anybody like to speak on this issue on the public? This result, or we can't, correct me, yeah.
I was going to wait right until someone started walking up.
Thank you, sorry, yeah.
You're correct.
Right when the words came out, it's like, wait, this is supposed to be a closed hearing with no new evidence, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
pass
So
on that.
yes, for this one, we won't be taking, thank you, any public comment on, but they're welcome to next week, as long as they've gone through the hearing examiner process and not presenting any new evidence, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Let's move on to letter D then. Resolution Franklin County Conservation District Annexation and Shrub Step Mitigation ILA. And for this, we're going to our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Sigdell. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to structure this presentation, since it can get a little bit convoluted, to just talk about what the Conservation District does, how the city currently benefits, whether we pay for those benefits, There are other things that the Conservation District provides that we just do not have access to, and then kind of go through the ask that the staff has. The presentation that you have in front of you is something that Franklin Conservation District Manager Kara Caldor has presented to council before. It's been about a year, so some of you are new here. Essentially, there are quite a few very important things that the Conservation District provides to our community. Number one, water rights. You hear that about quite a bit. They actually provide technical assistance to water right applications and transfers, and they've been doing that since 1999. And even though City of Pasco is not part of the Conservation District, they have done about 78 of our applications just because they're part of that process. So that's a benefit that we receive because of this organization that we technically do not pay for. Shrub step mitigation. This is a service, again, that they provide. City of Pasco does receive benefit that we actually pay for in very site-specific contracts. So we have two existing contracts with the Conservation District, one for Broadmoor area and the other one for our processed water reuse facility project. So whenever you disturb a shrub step, you're supposed to mitigate it as per Washington Fish and Wildlife to a certain, so it could be 1 acre to 2 acres. There's going to be a ratio that they give to us. And then you're supposed to find a piece of land that you're going to conserve, hand it over to them. Quite an onerous process, and we'll talk about that a little bit later here. So we've partnered with them where we pay them for their service of going out there and finding land for essentially that meets Fish and Wildlife's requirements, but only for Broadmoor area, specific region there, and for our processed water reuse facility. Processed water reuse facility contract is essentially fulfilled and closed at this point. So the only active contract that we have is for Broadmoor area. Heritage Gardens, we really felt like the timing of conservation, water conservation, and conservation district was a good complement because the heritage gardens that we just discussed, it's something that Conservation District provides, but only to their jurisdiction, which City of Pasco is not part of. So our residents within the city limits would not have access to this. They assist with landowners in creating water-wise landscapes and gardens that incorporate native plants of Washington State, which promotes water conservation and essentially helps with council's overall goal of xeriscaping and water conservation. Education and outreach, things like Salmon in the Classroom, Wheat Week, Drain Rangers, high school STEM Academy, workshops and farm tours and community events. All of these are done within Pasco school districts, so Pasco kids from City of Pasco benefit from that as well. They're funded by a variety of interlocal agreements, grants, and a system of local funding called rates and charges. And this rates and charges is something that you see with your property tax bill. It's not a property tax levy rate, but you will see that alongside things like Mosquito District, you'll see rates and charges. For every dollar of local funds that the district leverages, they essentially bring in $20 worth of grant funding to bring back to the community. And that's how they fund a lot of the things, because the rate for a parcel within the City of Pasco is $5, and then it is $10 per acre. So something for sure when you're thinking about property taxes, but not a significant amount. So that $5 is essentially per year. So for $5, you would get all of the benefits that I talked about earlier. Any questions so far? Does that give you an idea of what a conservation district does?
Please proceed.
Okay. The reason that we're here today is, of course, Conservation District has come in front of council at least once or twice before requesting for the city to be annexed within the city limits. Additionally, in the last year and a half, we have encountered shrub step mitigation issues with Fish and Wildlife. Essentially, that has resulted in is delays in development because, as I mentioned, Fish and Wildlife will say this is a shrub step habitat. If you're disturbing it, you're going to need to conserve it somewhere else in a ratio of 1:1, 1:2, 1:4. It wasn't as big of an issue, at least to staff's memory, prior to a year and a half. But it is a big issue now. And essentially what that is resulting in is developers having to be conservation experts. What they're also doing is going to conservation districts, whether in Benton County or Franklin County, Benton Conservation District or Franklin Conservation District, and trying to do negotiate individual contracts with them. Kennewick and Richland have different contracts with the Conservation District. What is in front of you today is inspired by both of them. There's few changes that we would still like to make that will be minor, and if council directs staff to proceed with this for upcoming regular meeting, then we'll discuss that later. But essentially what the Conservation District is asking is if the city would like to move forward with an interlocal agreement that covers all of the city, very much like it currently has with Broadmoor. If we cancel that contract and then we have a citywide interlocal agreement, then they will take on the responsibility of finding that land that meets the requirements of Fish and Wildlife. So essentially what our developers would have to do is just write a check for whatever acre of conservation or shrub step habitat that they're disturbing, and then Conservation District will take it from there. So streamline the process quite a bit. But to do that, they would like for us to be annexed into the district. And the reason for that is it's a lot of risk for them. Buying land and proper land is not an easy proposition. So you're seeing both of these come to you at the same time for that reason. The alternatives available to you, if you decide to move forward with that option, which is approval of the annexation, which would result in about $5 per parcel impact annually for a City of Pasco household. And then an interlocal agreement, which is about $4,000 per acre of shrub step mitigation for any development. Then we will bring forth the ordinance or the resolution and the interlocal agreement for your approval. The alternative available to you is you could reject the annexation and move forward, direct staff to negotiate with Conservation District on the interlocal agreement, which likely might not be successful, but we can give it a try. Or you can do vice versa, which is annexation and reject the ILA, which creates still the issue that we have with shrub step mitigation for our development community. You could reject both. This would result in city not getting some of the services like heritage gardens and some education opportunity for the kids. But with the shrub step mitigation issue, staff is also working on a critical habitat area ordinance, which we will update alongside our comp plan. So it's going to be a little bit later in the year, but we will have a more robust ordinance that will help mitigate some of the challenges that we have right now. And we're quite confident that we will be successful in reducing the challenges that our development community is facing at this time. But this will be later in the year as it needs to be done with the comp plan amendment. So three options, maybe four, which is approving both ILA and the annexation, rejecting one or the other, and then rejecting both. And with that, I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Sigdale. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and start it off. I just want to make sure, so the fee per acre would be a little over $4,000?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you had me at the kids, really. So, no, I'm just joking. But No, I know I've had a lot of conversations with the Franklin County Conservation District, and I'm a big believer. A couple of us have been talking about a lot about water. Today is all about water, it seems like. But no, I think we need this partner, because if not, I think we have the staff work on many other things, and I would hate to throw that on their plate, perhaps to try and shrub step. And we have experts within our area, and I think they've done a great job. And half this council wasn't here with the previous presentation, but when we opted out, it was kind of a weird thing. We were supposed to opt back in, but it didn't happen. I think it's just time. We're tired of dating. We need to get married, right? And I think $5, $10 a year is fine. I paid almost $10 for this today, so I just think we need to continue establishing this partnership and working with the Conservation District in regards to water rights, in regards to water conservation. So I think this is a win-win for our community, and it makes us all whole. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Cotta.
On the other side of it, it just seems like the existing Pasco population is paying for this cost of new development. I mean, is that one way to look at this? I mean, how is it? Just seems like if you're developing a piece of land, you should be the one putting the cost up front for establishing that land.
They still would be doing that. So the $4,000 per acre, that would be the developer who would be paying that. The additional cost to city residents with this action would be that around $5 per year.
And so
to be part of the conservation district.
If we don't put the $5 forward, then what happens? Is the developer essentially carrying that cost?
Conservation district would like for us to be annexed, which results in that $5 for them to move forward with more long-term commitments with us.
Okay.
Is that clear?
So that's just the cost of the annexation, you're saying?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cotta. Councilmember Figueroa.
So here on the notes, it says that the district has already discontinued the Salmon Run program with the Pasco School District due to funding. If this goes through, would that come back, or would that be a Pasco School District decision they would have to make?
I'm going to rely on Kara Calder to answer that question.
Yeah, that's our Salmon in the Classroom program. It would return. And I mentioned that to the council last year when I gave the presentation that, yeah, if the city was annexed in, that is one program that the Conservation District has been paying for wholly to provide to all fourth graders in the city of Pasco. And that was one that I had to take away due to budget cuts.
Thank you.
Kara, before you run away, as the executive director of the Conservation District, if you would like to add a few more comments and reintroduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I do appreciate that. Director Sigdahl did a great job of explaining that. She did mention it was $5 per parcel and 10 cents an acre. So I own a quarter acre in the city of Pasco. I would pay $5.03 to the Conservation District. It would be the lowest charge on your bill. The Horticulture Pest Board, now libraries will be more than that. Now, weed control or noxious weeds and mosquito control are all part of those. We're a special purpose district. You would add $120,000 to our budget a year. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for us, it's huge. If we can leverage what we currently get, which is about $70,000 a year from the county, the rest of the Franklin County that pays, if we can leverage that at 20-1, just imagine what we could do if we had that extra $120,000 a year to leverage. The other thing is when people call us for services, we have to ask them where they live and have to say, sorry, if you live in the city of Pasco, because we can't provide services to you. That's why I have a waiting list for Heritage Gardens. There are people wanting to do this, but I can't provide the service because you're not part of our district. I don't want to have to ask that question anymore. I just want to be able to provide services. And the $4,000 an acre that the developer pays that I hold in a bank account, I'm on the hook for going out and finding. I have to do one of three things. I have to find the land, acre per acre. I have to put the land, or I could put land acre for acre in a conservation easement, which means I pay that landowner a fee, and they will protect that land in perpetuity, forever and ever, as shrub step. The third option I have is I can enhance that property and make it better shrub step or to convert it to shrub step. All three of those options, gentlemen, are expensive. They're way more than $4,000 an acre. So the minute I take shrub step mitigation money and put it in a bank at $4,000 an acre, I'm already behind. Because every day the price of those things goes up and up and up. So I can't go out and buy shrub step for $4,000 an acre because in turn, if I want to buy it, I'm going to have to pay attorney fees, appraisal fees, review appraisal fees. I'm going to have to include all of that plus my administration fee, all the fees it takes me to find the property. Thankfully, I have a very good working relationship with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we have a kind of a joint effort in the shrub step habitat protection. And so we work together really well. We can help find each other locations and land and work with landowners. So we are the experts in these fields. That is the reason why Director Sigdahl came to us and said, can you help? Because we're the ones to do the work.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Appreciate it. Not seeing any more lights. Would the public like to comment on this? Mr. Harpster?
Good evening, Council. Peter Harpster with Harpster Land Development. Here tonight in favor of this proposal, and I'll just share a few stories. I had some notes, but I think the stories will be more helpful. We did a project in Franklin County. There was shrub step on the property, and it took us 6 months to negotiate with Fish and Wildlife over what kind of mitigation they would accept from us. We did a project in a different city here in Southeast Washington, and it took 4 months to negotiate with Fish and Wildlife on what kind of mitigation they would accept. We did a project here in the city of Pasco on Road 68 where there was some shrub step in the southeast corner adjacent to 68. And we were able to pay the mitigation for that to the Conservation District and satisfy the city's requirement to mitigate that. And that took a handful of weeks. It was maybe 2 months tops. So something like this streamlines the process, which is a goal of CED, and I've heard Council talk about that as well as a priority. And so the like Cara said, the $4,000 an acre is really low, but it's at least something that gets them some funding. This would improve predictability for developments that we're doing in the city of Pasco. As I mentioned before, we're currently working on 6 or 7. And then, you know, one thing in negotiations with the state, we've got good relationships with them. They comment on every single project that I submit, but we still really never know what to expect. Local coordination with Conservation District would be much better than with the state. And we always talk about how there's lots of frustrations in dealing with state requirements from the GMA. And so what we can keep local, we'd like to keep local, and I think it's helpful they understand what we're dealing with here. Like mentioned, if the annexation, you know, wasn't approved, then the district would be less inclined to accept mitigation for projects in a city that they're not even serving. So appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Harpster. Anybody else? Mr. Hastings?
Colin Hastings, Pasco Chamber, 1110 Osprey Point, Pasco. Just wanted to. Your microphone's not on. My bad.
Thank you.
I saw it. Colin Hastings, Pasco Chamber, 1110 Osprey Point, offering our support of this as well too. And I can tell you just anecdotally through our economic development committee, there's been stories of where even on urban infill that developers walked away because of this potential mitigation they have to do, and they're just like, yeah, we don't want this. So if this eases that sort of process, we're in support of that. So just offering our support. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Anybody else in the chamber like to speak on this issue? Got room for 2 more comments. Going once, going twice. All right, moving on. Thank you. Let's move to letter E, resolution Broadmoor TIF area, amendment number 6 with PBS for engineering services. And Director Sarah, we are, oh, sorry. Oh, you good? Okay, I thought, okay, so we are going to go back to you, Director Sarah. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. And today our items truly line up really well. We're talking about infrastructure, allowing economic development to occur, and this is a little bit of that. Before we jump into the amendment that is the topic of your item, I wanted to give you an overview of the work that has been done or is underway within the Broadmoor area and that has been paid in part or in full via tax increment financing. And so in your screen, and there's lots of colors, and that may be a little difficult to see in your screen, but definitely in your packets, and the same for the public. If you look at the packet, you will see all the different colors and outlines, and those correlate with the projects that have been done. So as many of you may remember, the city has issued, has created an area that is the tax increment financing area, where the increase in value of the property will repay the city for debt issued. And that happens as development occurs. And some of the conditions for that tax increment financing to be able to be created is that the development could not occur if it had not been for the infrastructure being built to facilitate that. And so that is true for the Broadmoor area. And that's how we got to this list of projects that we're going to cover very quickly in this presentation. So the first project that got accomplished via this mechanism was the modifications to the interchange at the Broadmoor or Road 100 and I-182. That's the first project in the list in blue. And then we did some rough grading that allowed basically to prepare the land for where the key transportation corridors and utility corridors were going to be installed. So that's in red. And then if we move to that rust color, the first phase of projects delivered within that rough grading area was the utility installation. That's water, sewer, and irrigation being installed. Those projects were actually built with utility rates or utility funds, so to speak, maybe not rates. I misspoke. There is expansion fund within the rates or within the utility fund, sorry. So that's water, sewer, irrigation built within those same corridors, including a portion of a transmission main built along the corridor 104, which will not have a road associated with it, at least not publicly built. And then if we keep on moving through the other projects that are in the list, in green, you're seeing Burns and Broadmoor intersection. That project is finished. Later on, we were able to award and have under construction the Sandifer and Broadmoor intersection improvements, which actually expands all the way to where the Burns intersection improvement ended. So it actually covers a little more than just the intersection of Sandifer and Broadmoor. It moves north all the way, covering also Buckingham intersection and the widening of Broadmoor. And then one step under that one is the Sandifer Parkway and Road 108 extensions. And that is the biggest portion of the project that you're seeing heading west on Sandifer and then south on 108 in front of where the aquatic center is placed, and also connecting further north with some private development that had occurred. So we effectively are creating that network behind Broadmoor that will allow for traffic to be distributed and the different parcels to be accessed. And so that gets us to today, and you're seeing all the dollar amounts associated with each of those projects, and then the total contract amount we have with our consultant doing the design work and construction support. But it gets us to today, which we're going to be focusing on the realignment of the Harris Road. Today, I have a picture. Today, Harris Road goes along, coming from the west towards the east, kind of carries itself adjacent to and parallel to the I-182 corridor, and then closer to Broadmoor area, it does this, what we typically call a dogleg, where it goes north and then a 90-degree angle, and it meets Broadmoor, just south of Sandifer. Well, that intersection, if you've ever taken it, especially with higher volumes of traffic, is very difficult to navigate, especially if you're doing a left turn heading north from Harris north, or if you're coming off of the freeway heading west and you decide that you're going to take Harris to get somewhere else. That left turn there is also difficult. You're standing on Broadmoor, stop, and trying to take a left turn, crossing several lanes of travel. They're coming south, heading to the freeway. It's quite complicated. So both our TIP and CIP include this project where we would realign Harris to eliminate that connection to Broadmoor, and instead we would connect straight north towards Sandifer, creating a signalized intersection that aligns with the Road 103. All right, and so there's a picture of what all the things that I mentioned there. There's 108, 103, there's the Harris realigned, Sandifer, Broadmoor. You're seeing everything on the screen. And then on the right side of the screen, you're seeing a little bit of what is happening with that Sandifer and 108 construction that is pretty advanced and almost ready to be finished. All right. So what we are discussing today is presenting to you and asking for approval for amendment number 6 to our agreement for design services with Apex, which formerly known as PBS Engineering. And you are seeing the overall contract. We began our work with them in the early stages where we were evaluating feasibility for the TIF area and the cost of projects so that we could analyze how much was needed to be bonded for, how much we could really receive in revenues. And so all the technical support related to construction costs were provided by PBS. And then we enter into the amendments that allow us to do all the work for the different projects that you saw listed there, except for the ramp. The first blue project that we saw there was not part of the contract, it was delivered via a different contract with a different consultant. And so today we're asking for your support to enter the 6th amendment that will allow for finishing the design and hopefully going into bidding and support through construction of the Harris realignment. Again, it's that north-south connection between the Harris alignment today and Sandifer, and that is for just under $400,000 in that amendment. All right, and with that, I cover all the information that I had available. We're happy to answer any questions I may have not covered.
Thank you, Director Sarah. Any questions from council? Councilmember Prowse.
The only question I had was, are these funds coming from the TIF funds?
There's actually a mix of funds for this project. It would be TIF and TIF. So it's tax increment financing and also traffic impact fee for a certain percentage, which matches what was in our calculation of the impact fee that had to do with that mitigation of safety that we have today at the Broadmoor connection. But it's certainly a percentage only, and there's a dollar amount maximum that could be used from the impact fee fund, and the rest is increment financing.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I'll be in support of this. I think it's good to have the same engineering firm for continuity purposes begin and end this. So no, this is great, and PBS and Apex Company is a reputable firm. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Director Sarah, just for the sake of the public, I know sometimes we get pushback for change orders, of which you have come in so many times often under budget lately. Would you maybe just briefly explain the difference between this being an amendment and a change order for the sake of the public, please?
Yes. So we use amendments for consultant projects or professional services agreements such as this. Change orders are typically used in construction contracts with our contractors, whoever is building and delivering the project. The difference, what is typically understood as a change order is something like an error that we need to quickly fix. And there is the generalized idea, it's not always true, but generalized idea that the contractor takes advantage of whoever is receiving that change order, and therefore we're paying a premium because it's rushed and we are in a bind. Amendments, on the other hand, are typically negotiated changes. So, and I would say change orders are typically negotiated as well. But in this case, for amendments, we are changing the scope or what was originally agreed upon we would be delivering together with our consultant. We are asking the consultant to deliver a new bid package that was not included in the original scope, and there would be a cost, whether it's this consultant or another consultant. And in this case, this consultant has the base information that has been already collected and has all the time points for the other design projects they have already done. And something super important to keep in mind related to this contract is that the solicitation for the services with this consultant included the whole scope, and then we chose to enter smaller contract at the beginning and amend as we had the need to deliver packages. It is not legal to do a selection for a small set of improvements and then expand that scope beyond it. That is not what is happening here. What we did here is we did a big solicitation where we asked for qualifications of different consultants and understood that they were capable to deliver the whole thing. But at that time, we didn't have the certainty that all the projects needed to move forward. So we entered an agreement that was limited to what we had certainty we needed delivered. And then we added as more certainty came forward, and we were confident we needed new packages, bid packages, to be ready to go out. And so that is the case here, where the selection is concurrent with the work we're asking them to do, and we just have been cautious not to overcommit with the amount of work we want them to deliver for us. We are managing and pausing ourselves to ensure that there is first proper revenue to be able to pay for the work, but also the need for them to be working on this part of the work.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's really good background information, I think, for the public to hear. One last thing while I have you, though, just a couple of slides back. The public may also be interested. I see Sandifer Parkway Broadmoor Intersection Improvements Project in progress. When might the public, they'd probably be interested, when might that be done?
So the Broadmoor and the Broadmoor and Sandifer intersection, which again we talked is a much bigger scope than just the intersection itself, is for brevity needs on the title. That project actually has temporary signals today functioning, and the signals are actually delivered, and there is programming and other things that are occurring. We have a tentative date at the end of this month for those to be turned into operations. There may be some testing and there may be some tinkering with it. So within the next 2 months, I would say that project should be fully operational with all permanent things happening to it. And then the other project, the Sandifer extension and Road 108 extension, you can kind of peek through when you're driving by. They look pretty much finished. There is still some work to be done, and so we certainly will meet the May deadline we had in our contract. It's likely we will beat that date and be able to open to traffic sooner. Certainly we want the signal finished at Sandifer before the final and permanent signal to be finished before we open that road to traffic. But we are very, very close, so we're getting very excited to go drive that brand new corridor.
Okay, appreciate the impromptu update. I just saw a couple guys high up on a ladder today and got a little excited myself out there. So it looked a little sketchy, especially with the wind, but yeah, they're trained and I'm not. So anyways, thank you so much for all that. Let's move on, everybody. 7, miscellaneous council discussion. Does everybody want to talk about? Mr. Stewart?
The only question I have for council tonight is some guidance. So council's been communicating with and trying to set up some joint council board / commission meetings with different community partners and those kinds of things. And there was some desire by some of the council to discuss direction from council on that, on what you would like to do. So I don't know if you would like to talk about that this evening or if we want to put that on an agenda for a future meeting.
What do you guys think? Do you want to discuss that tonight, or Councilmember Cotta?
I think we can talk about tonight. We were just talking about, meeting with the chamber. I think it's a great idea. I support it.
And Mr. Stewart, maybe who are the other partners that you kind of,
Well, in essence, the concept is for a joint meeting between, I guess, the legislative entities within the community, that you have an opportunity to talk with them directly, council to board, council to commission, whatever that is, talk about areas that we have common ground that we can work together on, maybe gain some efficiencies so we're not using duplicating resources and efforts and those kinds of things. So it could be a number of things. I think I outlined earlier, you know, we were talking about the chamber. We can meet with the school board. We can meet with the county commission. We can meet with the Port of Pasco, the library board. The list goes on and on. So one is I want to make sure that there was support from the council on having these meetings. I would like to see them happen at least maybe once a year at a minimum, that you have an opportunity to communicate, set goals. I find it helpful to, in previous communities I've been in, to do that either preceding or right at the beginning of the budget process. So as you're prioritizing goals and objectives for the community, how are you working with your partners to do that? How are we building that into our budget to meet those goals and objectives? But then, so who are those community partners? Maybe you have another entity that you would like to meet with as well. And so this would be an opportunity for council to give direction. Do you agree with the concept? And two, who are those entities that you would like to prioritize that we meet with at least once a year to try to achieve those objectives?
that sounds good. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, that's how things get done. You get together and you have a meeting and you make a plan on what we want to do. As far as any other entities, I'm trying to remember. There's three. There's people that are providing services for the homeless. So the Union Gospel Mission, Clean Sweep, and U-Turn for Christ. I'd be wondering about getting together with those guys and seeing if there's something we could do to help them.
Councilmember Perales.
I would just say, yeah, in that vein, maybe we all put together a list of entities we would like to set up meetings with, and maybe we can kind of narrow it down for the year. I mean, there's only so many meetings and time, so maybe we can start from there and then kind of see what the list kind of gets kind of snowballed into.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm all for a meeting. Again, as long as we have a well thought out agenda, and again, I know there's times where we've met with other entities in the past, and it seems like the council has said their piece, and then other entities say nothing. So, and we're taking up our time, whether it's an evening or whatever. So I guess if we could facilitate a meeting, but obviously we don't want to do all the talking and then they just keep quiet. I'm talking about another commission. So again, it's very frustrating to take off time on a Saturday, spend a couple hours here, a presentation, and they say nothing, and we have to give what they say. So all for it. Just want to make sure that there's both give and take between them and us. So I can explain more in private. I'm not trying to call out another organization, but my 2 cents on that.
No, appreciate that caveat. I think that would be important too, to have a clear agenda where, where we have things to discuss, that we're not just sitting around visiting. I don't think that's going to benefit anyone. Councilmember Figueroa.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with this and would appreciate that. I think at times a lot of these legislative bodies, we operate in silos, and sometimes we are kind of reinventing the wheel when we don't need to, and so this could provide some sort of collaboration and being more effective and efficient in the common ground that we do have. I think that would be important. So having those agenda items, making sure that all the parties have access to that, and if they want to add anything else, and being prepared. But I'm all for this because at the end of the day, we have a common vision for the city. I think we can definitely sit down and talk and see how we can make it happen and make it a reality. So I'm all about teamwork makes the dream work at the end of the day. So that's the coaching in me. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Is that good enough, Mr. Stewart? Cool. Thank you. Anybody have anything else you'd like to discuss? Not seeing any, we're going to move into executive session. This is letter A of number 8, to consider site selection or acquisition of real estate purchase or lease if likelihood that disclosure would increase price per RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, section B. 7 minutes still good, Mr. Stewart?
Actually, I recommend 15.
Okay, we will do 15. Who's all going to be in the meeting with us, Mr. Stewart?
It would be the deputy city manager and the assistant city manager.
Okay, thank you. It is 9:17. We will pick this back up and adjourn until, or go into our executive session until 9:23.
I'd like to include
Or
Maria.
9:33, sorry.
I'd like to include Maria in there as well.
Thank you. The time is 9:41. We are back from executive session with no decisions being made. This meeting is adjourned.